Hey everybody, welcome back to the Law Shanty. We're going to do another Law Shanty episode this week that isn't really COVID related, but it's sort of COVID related. We're not going to talk about any COVID rules or COVID regulations or anything like that. But what we are going to talk about is harassment. We're going to talk about harassment in the workplace. And it's sort of COVID related because we're going to talk about harassment in the workplace as the workplace has sort of evolved into where we are now. We're, a lot of us, working from home, or if we have one, from the shanty. And we're not going to the office anymore, and we're not interacting with our coworkers personally on a one-to-one basis anymore in terms of being in physical proximity to one another. So some of the things that we would normally worry about might have been set to the side a little bit because we've been so focused on COVID and COVID regulations and COVID rules and all the things we have to do to keep people safe, and rightly so. But we can't let these other things sit and slide either. And frankly, the remote work that we're doing now has created a new set of challenges for us as HR people and how we handle that. And we should be asking ourselves some questions. Is my policy adequate to deal with this issue? Are my policies adequate to deal with this issue? Do I need to do something else? Do I need to do something more? And many of you may be thinking, well, look, I mean, my employees aren't coming to work anymore, so there's no chance for them to be harassed. Well, you know that's not true. Just because you're not seeing your boss face to face in the office doesn't mean you're not seeing your boss. And your boss can still harass you over video. This is, a very creative medium, and you can be harassed on video as easily as you can be harassed in person in an office. There may not be the touching, but there's other kinds of harassment. So let's talk about harassment a minute. And let's start with a little refresher on what the definition of harassment is. And we'll use the EEOC definition as opposed to the state. They're pretty much the exact same thing anyway, and they get us to the two primary kinds of sexual harassment that we have to deal with on a regular basis. So what does the EEOC say harassment is? Well, it's unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature when submission to a rejection of the conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term or condition of an individual's employment. That's the first part of quid pro quo. Sleep with me or else, right? That kind of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Submission to a rejection of such conduct by an individual is used as a basis for employment decisions affecting such individual. Do something nice for me, you're going to get a nice raise or a nice bonus. Such conduct unreasonably interferes with an individual's work performance and creates a hostile, intimidating, or offensive work environment. And that's hostile work environment sexual harassment. So let's start with the easy one. The easiest one to recognize, right, is quid pro quo. And with quid pro quo, we need that power relationship. We need that manager-supervisor relationship. So I'm an employee of Warner Norcross and Judd. I'm an employee of the law firm. I've got technically, I guess, I don't know how many partners we have now, but they're all my bosses theoretically, and they all have some degree of control over my terms and conditions of employment. And at the very least, 10 or so people on the management committee certainly have control over the terms and conditions of my employment. So let's assume that one of those people, in an effort to make sure that I'm doing okay working from home, because we all know that there's additional pressure and stress and all of that associated with being isolated and working from home and not having contact with our coworkers, decides they're going to schedule a Zoom call with me every week just to check in. And in that Zoom call, that partner, that boss, makes a demand of me. They either make a demand that's a term or condition of employment. If I don't do what they want me to do, if I don't move my camera a certain way or do whatever it is they want me to do, I'm going to get fired, or I'm not going to get a raise, or I'm not going to get a bonus. Or if I do what they want me to do, they will give me a raise, or they will give me a bonus, or whatever. Textbook quid pro quo sexual harassment, right? And the fact that it's happening over a video feed and not in an office somewhere or in a conference room or when I'm cornered at a party that the firm is holding doesn't matter. It's still textbook quid pro quo sexual harassment. It is a supervisor demanding something of his subordinate in exchange for, doing something nice or not doing something unnice to me. And the remote work environment doesn't change that much. Well, what if we don't have that situation? What if we're now talking about hostile work environment sexual harassment, the last part of that definition, the creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment? Well, let's think about that for a minute in parts. Let's first think about work environment. Work environment before was muddy because of social media and Facebook and Twitter and Space Monkey and whatever else is out there, Insta, Face, and all that jazz. And the work environment was becoming muddied by all those social media things. It's really muddied now because I'm not even going to the office anymore. There isn't even a 9 to 5 like any of us ever work 9 to 5 anymore. There wasn't even any defined work hours anymore because I'm not even going into the office. Now this is my office. The Law Shanty is my office. And I'm taking calls and answering email and doing Zoom meetings and doing team meetings and doing all of that stuff, often at all hours of the day and night. We've lost kind of the separation between home and work because of this remote work thing. So now what's a hostile work environment, right? It even becomes a little more muddy. So we've got our weekly Zoom meeting with our manager or our supervisor, or maybe our team. The manager and supervisor is not even on it necessarily anymore. I'm an assistant to a sales rep, and the sales rep isn't really my boss, but the sales rep's a coworker. But jokes are being made, comments are being made. He really likes my V-neck sweater and my cool little T-shirt, and boy, oh boy, you look really good today, and on and on and on. Have we created a hostile or intimidating work environment? Well, we have. And that could still exist. And as a matter of fact, it might even be more likely in this environment than it was in the environment at work, because maybe at work there's people around. But when I'm having a Zoom call, it's like it's just the two of us. Now, the one thing I can always do on a Zoom call that the other guy might not know about, I don't know how this works, so maybe I can, is hit the record button. So I might have some evidence, but it's still a potential hostile and intimidating work environment. Now, look, you guys are all really smart, and you all knew this. I didn't have to tell you this. So why did I just spend 8 minutes going through all this stuff with you to tell you this? The reason I wanted to tell you this is to remind you of a couple of things that we can't forget. Again, we have spent so much time and so much effort, and rightly so, focusing on the pandemic and focusing on keeping people safe and focusing on our preparedness plans and focusing on our remote work policies, that maybe not, but maybe we've lost sight of all the other obligations we have in the work environment. For example, if you have people in New York, or if you have people in California, you have mandatory sexual harassment training that's got to be done. And both of those states have made it abundantly clear that the pandemic is not going to be an excuse for not doing that training. So what about us in Michigan? Do we have mandatory training? Well, not legally mandated training in terms of a statute or a rule or regulation, but in order to get the defenses we need, if somebody does claim harassment, we certainly need to be training our people. Not only our supervisors, but our managers. So the whole point of this particular law, Shanny, is to say this to you. Don't forget everything else. Don't forget your policies. Have you looked at your policies, and do they deal with our new work environment? Have they been clear? Do you have a sexual harassment policy that makes it clear that sexual harassment is sexual harassment, whether it's done on video or whether it's done sitting in your office? And you don't have to call out video. You just need to make sure that your policy covers this situation, and it may, but it may not, but you should look at it. Do you have a social media policy? A computer use policy that covers this sort of things? If you don't, you might want to think about it. And here's the key. I think the key is have you thought about training? We can't let our training lapse just because we're not going to the office anymore. It's something we need to continue to do. Now, is it going to be more challenging? Of course it is. Are we going to have to do it with a Zoom meeting or a Zoom call or a video set of training or an online training program or something like that? Of course we are. Palazzolo, do you have all those things? Of course I do. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing this with you, right? We can provide you with those things if you need them. We can make those available to you. So please don't forget that we can't let this sort of thing slide. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that our people are being adequately trained, especially in these new environments, so everybody understands, hey, this is still work time. You still have to behave professionally. We still expect you to do the things that we know you want to do to create a comfortable, happy work environment for everybody. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you, as my English friends would say, we'll see you in a fortnight. Bye.